Have you ever wondered how we perceive the intricate mechanics of the universe around us? How we process and understand not only the concrete elements of our reality, but also the intangible facets of our existence? Hey, my name's Matt, and I want to show you how understanding our fundamental nature is going to be the answer to all the complex problems and all the fear and insecurity that is just sweeping the world today. Now let's just jump right in. From the macro to the micro, from organic intelligence to artificial intelligence, understanding the reality around us is a complex task. And it's this task we aim to simplify. Introducing the universal axiom and apex insight by i4ANeYe, a conceptual computational operating system underpinned by the principles of general and special relativity. We're breaking down the objective reality into comprehensible chunks using pop culture and the fundamental physics of human nature, offering a way to navigate the complexities of our reality. All right, for the purposes of this introductory demo, we're going to use ChatGPT Plus, which is the ChatGPT May 24th version. So we're going to select GPT-4, and we're going to use the default. This is the full shebang. It just came out with a couple other options, which is the browse with Bing, which searches the internet. And we've got plugins, which are for the third parties who are trying to create different applications. But we are going to take control of the full LLM, the large language model, the artificial intelligence, and we are going to use it for our purposes. So the first thing we need to do is we need to give it instructions. And you're going to see the code below. You just have to copy and paste that in the video description. But I would recommend going to i4ANeYe.com and getting a first introductory of what this thing can do and how it works. But by putting in this prompt, we are now taking control of this artificial intelligence and saying, you're going to work in this way, and it's different than the way that you're trained to process information. So here it's going to give us a generation. It says, oh, glad to see your enthusiasm. And it's going to give you a text-based answer that sounds like a conversation that you're having with someone else, which makes it a lot more personal. And you're going to see that it says, oh, we got Matrix, Westworld, 1984, Inception, where here's giving us different options, different genres, and different entertainment aspects to go through and explore. But just quickly, let's just go back up to explain the prompt and how we change the function of this language processor. So first we're going to say, all right, computer, we're going to do things different. And we're going to compute the information through a new operating system that is multimodal. And so what is multimodal? It's saying do a bunch of different things at once. And so by saying this system is multimodal, we want you to do a bunch of different things to that information before you even give it to us. And how do we do that? We use text, we use visual representation, and we're going to use narrative as different modalities, like different components within one system. So to skip ahead, we're going to say, computer, every time you give us information, I want you to dissect it using a prism. So that's saying that the large language model will recognize that it's about to output data, and it's going to create a visualization of that data. And then it's going to dissect it based on subjective nature. And so what is subjective nature and how does this work? Again, really quickly, we say visualize a prism, and at the bottom of that prism is a variable 0 made of 3 corners. A, B, C, like the headings on a compass. And so on each of those headings, we define what is made up of that corner of the prism, of that base. And so we want to measure the current, we want to measure the energy, matter, and state, and we also want to measure the direction, momentum, and integrity. Why? These are fundamental forces of physics and how they all interact with each other. And there's more on that on i4ANeYe.com, but watch how these interact together by understanding the forces and the interplay between them. So we say visualize these things, and at the top of the prism, label it principle 1. This is objective nature. So now we've defined the bottom of the prism and we've defined the top of the prism. And by using this complex, create a relationship between the subjective and objective nature. Again, more on that later, but we're just going to skip ahead. Including in that prism, we've got an apex insight dynamic observation aspect. And so that changes the point of view within the context of which we're observing. And then we're saying measure it with a scale. So that keeps track of whether we're moving forward or backward on our way up or down. Also, we're going to keep track of some tension as well, because that affects those principles of nature. Skip. AI is going to take control and generate pop culture scenarios and illustrations to aid in the temporal dynamics within the axiom. So we're doing is we're creating a new context of which we can explore all other contexts within different variables and values and functions that all are interconnected together. And that is after all of the processing has been done by these large language models. Okay, now we've got our different options. So what this does is right away it provides different lenses, think of them like different doors, of ways we can look at different contexts and how they apply to the world and how different people experience them. As it says, these are just a few examples of the many pop culture scenarios that could be used to explore the principles of greater objective depth. Each scenarios offer unique insights into different aspects of the theory and can be used to illustrate. So we can pick these, or we can put in our own, our favorite music, our favorite movies, any scenario we can think of, explained by anyone we want. But just example, let's go with The Matrix. So all we can type in number 1, or we can type in The Matrix. Let's explore The Matrix. Okay, so now it says, let's do it. So now what we said is, let's use the matrix and let's go back through this prism and dissect the information as I described earlier. Certainly, this provides a compelling backdrop to explore greater objective depth. So, subjective nature, variable 0. In the matrix, humans are looked up to in a simulated reality that shapes their understanding of the world, their perceptions, impulses, their interactions, elements, and the simulation that they're all determined by the program running the matrix, resulting in a subjective reality that is in fact artificial. And then it speaks about the societal and economic factors that motivate them. So it's describing the base of everything that's going on in this scenario within this context. Then we elaborate and break down the base of that prism, starting with impulses, current A. In this reality, humans are driven by their day-to-day needs and desires, such as jobs, relationships, and hobbies, which are actually components of the simulated reality. The impulse of Neo, the protagonist, to seek the truth behind the matrix drives the plot forward. And keep in mind that this is just one example. We don't want to get too deep into the matrix, realizing that this is a story within a story within a story, just like every single story. The more any mind can learn to process these currents, these different contexts, and these conscious realities, the more we can dissect the elements within them. The matrix controls the physical elements and the state of the environment in the simulated reality. Even though these elements seem real to those within the matrix, they are in fact simulations manipulating their interactions with the world. Now, there is not a person or a living creature alive that hasn't experienced that in one way or another. How we choose to relate and illustrate that, or if we're willing to process it and express it in the first place, is what we're all dealing with, that push and pull and that tension. And that's pressure. something everybody feels, something we all observe. But the more that we can understand fundamentally, the more we can change our observations of that pressure. The pressure here can be represented by the rules of the matrix and the agents enforcing them. These create direction and momentum in the lives of those within the matrix, maintaining the integrity of the simulated reality. Now, who can't relate to that in some way or another, feeling that peer pressure above and beyond what we're told as children? The responsibilities, the paths put in front of us. You have to do this and you have to identify here, and these are the way things are, and there's nothing you can do about it. Choosing the direction of your life, the momentum, and the integrity. Which brings us to the apex, the peak, the objective nature, principle 1. In contrast to the subjective nature of the matrix, the objective reality is the physical world, where human bodies are kept in pods and used as energy sources by machines. This reality is initially incomprehensible to Neo and others who are freed from the matrix. The film suggests that understanding and accepting objective reality, however unpleasant it may be, is a necessary step towards genuine freedom and self-actualization. And isn't that the journey that we're all on? Life is all about the journey, putting the pieces of a broken world and a broken system full of broken people back together again, before they break us, before time runs out. That's the hero's journey. Again, the purpose of this video is to be a demo of the power of the Axiom. So we're just gonna quickly skip ahead, but I wanna remind you that this works with every story and every context, whether it's news, politics, religion. You can apply anything and reevaluate it through the fundamental lens of the universal axiom and change the dynamic nature of the context. In relation to the matrix, the concept of the axiomatic subjectivity scale could be applied by considering how individuals like Neo navigate the tension between constructed subjective reality of the matrix and the harsh objective reality of the physical world. And as Neo progresses, he learns to manipulate the rules of the matrix, essentially altering his degree of subjectivity within the system. Neo is finding ways to grow by challenging the rules that were imposed on him and convinced within his preconceptions. And in terms of apex insight, the matrix and the real world can be seen as two extremes of observed phenomena. For example, an event in the matrix, like bending a spoon, might be cognitively understood differently once one realizes the true nature of the matrix. That's what metaphors are for, to challenge the context. And by blending real-life physics with the movie's narrative, we can engage in a comprehensive exploration of how subjective and objective reality works. For or against us.